Hi kids, this is Auntie Mila. It's so nice to see you. I have a story for you tonight. And our story tonight is called Paul's Canary. And our verse is Proverbs 17:22. And it says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine." A cheerful heart is good medicine. Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? Good medicine. So if you want to take some good medicine, you need to have a cheerful heart, a happy heart. Well, Paul was a little boy that lived with his mommy, just Paul and his mommy, in a big apartment house in a big city. And his mommy had to go to work every day and leave Paul by himself. But Paul had a problem. His legs were deformed. He was born with some problems, and he couldn't walk very good at all. And so he just stayed home. He couldn't go out in the street or anything. But where he sat in his window, it was sort of a nice window because the window jutted out. So he could sit out and he could look out this way, he could look this way, and he could look that way. And so he would sit there and he would just watch people walk by on the road behind and in front of him, and he would just watch. One day, Paul was sitting at his window just looking around, and it was a stormy day. It was rainy, and there was even thunder and lightning, and he was just sitting there and thought, ooh, this is a stormy day. And he sat there and he was watching the storm, and all of a sudden, there was something on his window ledge just outside. And it was a little bird, and it was just sitting there like this, and the rain was beating on it, and it was just sitting there. It was hungry and cold, and thought, the poor little thing. Look, he said, it's a canary. You know what canaries are? They're bright yellow and some black on it. And he said, oh, the poor thing. And so he opened the window, and he reached out, and the bird didn't fly away. He just picked up the bird, and the bird had a broken wing. And he closed the window and he brought it in. He says, you poor thing, you're so cold. He dried it off. And then he got a big blanket and he put it around him and put it around the little bird and tried to get the bird warm. And you know what? The bird went to sleep. And he was just sitting there. And when his mommy came home, she said, are you okay? Paul, is that you under that blanket? Are you okay? And he had fallen asleep too. He woke up. He says, oh, yes. And she says, what do you have in your hands? He says, Mommy, look. And it was a little canary. His mommy said, oh, how cute. Where did you find it? He was just sitting on the window ledge in the storm, and he was cold. And Mommy looked, and you know, she saw that he had a broken wing. And she said, oh, the poor little thing, let's give it something to eat. So they gave it some nice water to drink and some breadcrumbs, and the bird was pecking, pecking, pecking. And then Mommy said, you know, the people downstairs have a bird. Maybe I can borrow a little bird seed tonight for the bird. And so she went down and she asked the people, oh, we found this little bird. Could we borrow just a little bird seed from you? They said, oh, sure. And so they got a little bird seed and put it in a little thing. She said, thank you so much. So then a little bird had some bird seed. And Paul said, I'm going to name the bird Pet because it's my pet. Well, you know what? The next day, the bird ate some more, and it kept Paul company when his mommy had to go to work. He had Pet. He and Pet became good friends. And you know what? After a while, the wing healed, and the bird could fly, and the bird liked to ride on Paul's shoulder and walk. Paul would walk around, the bird would just sit there, or ride on Paul's head. It was a sweet little bird, sweet little story. Well, the story's only begun. He taught the bird all kinds of things, and he taught the bird that if he wanted something, he would sit here and he'd pull his hair, and so that meant he wanted to eat or something like that. Well, this was a long time ago, and his mother did not make very much money. at all. And he thought, you know, it's just not fair for a mother to have to pay for the pet's bird seed. What could I do? Well, he was sitting in his window, you know, like the bay window. He could look different directions. He was looking, and he saw Mary, who was next door, and she was in her window, and she was sitting there, and she was just busy all the time. And so then he talked to her. He says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I'm tatting." That's like making lace. And she says, "I make beautiful doilies, and I work really hard, and I knit, and I crochet, and I tat, and I make beautiful doilies like this, like lace, and then I take them to the market, and people buy them from me. And so that's how I make my money," because she says, "I'm too young to go and get a job." So every day he would see her sitting there just working away and crocheting, making really pretty things. And he said, "Mary, do you think you could teach me? Do you think I could learn how to do that?" She said, "Oh, yes." She said, "I'll come over and teach you." So she came over and gave him some yarn, and he had a needle. So he started. "How do you do it?" She's like this, like this. And she showed him. And so he worked so hard. And you know what? He worked hard every day. And then she said, "After you make things, I'll take them to the market for you and sell them for you and bring you the money." And Paul said, "Thank you, Mary." So he worked hard every day. He made beautiful things like this and smaller ones, all kinds. And he just sat there every day just working, 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 working. He was a hard worker. Then when he gets something all done, he'd say, "I'm all done with this, Mary." She said, "Okay, I'll take it to the market when I take my things." So she took it to the market. People would say, "Oh, that's very pretty. Oh, how much is it?" And she would tell them, "I think I'd like this one, and I'd like this." And people would buy them, and she brought the money back for Paul. Isn't that nice? And he told his mom, he says, "Mommy, I have money. I can buy birdseed." And so he gave some money to his mom. He says, "Can you buy birdseed for me?" And she says, "I'll be happy to." And he says, "Can you please buy some grapes and some bananas? I know they're real expensive, but I want some, and I want you to have some in your lunch." And Mother said, "How kind of you, how sweet." And so she bought exactly what he asked for out of his money that he earned. Well, I thought that was really sweet. Well, one night, everyone was sound asleep, and Paul woke up, and Pet was right there, pulling on his hair, biting, pulling. "Pet, it's not morning, go away." And he'd go back to sleep. A little later, pull on his hair, "Pet, go away, I'm sleeping." Okay, pulling on his hair. Fine, he says, "Fine, I'm going to put you on your perch." He got up, and he took Pet over and put Pet on the perch. And then he felt the wall. It was hot. And he went, "I smell smoke." He says, "Our house is on fire."
Mom.
And he ran to his mother. He says, "Mom, wake up. Our house is on fire."
Mom, the house is on fire. Mom, it's on fire.
And Mother was so tired. She didn't want to wake up, but she thought, "What? The house is on fire?" And she jumped up. Sure enough, she could smell smoke, and she could hear the roaring flames right next door. So she jumped up and she called the neighbors. "Fire, fire, fire," she said. And the neighbors woke up, and someone called the fire engines, and the fire trucks came, and their hoses, and they were hosing, and everyone fled out of the building, and they got the fire all put out. And then people said, "Oh, good thing. We all got out." And you know what? Little Pet got out too, because Paul was sure to take his little bird with him. And they all got out. And then they were saying, "Well, how did someone know that the house is on fire?" And then Paul said, "It was my bird Pet. Pet woke me up, and I kept telling Pet to go away, go away." And Pet would not go away. The Pet kept pulling my hair. And so I woke up, and then I realized the house was on fire. They said, That little canary saved all of our lives. Oh, they said, oh, how wonderful. And then the man that owned the building came to Paul and his mother and said, I understand that your bird is the one that woke you up. He said, yeah, pet, my bird, my pet canary. He said, oh, thank you so much. And the man said, I want to do something really nice for you. And Paul said, oh, you don't have to. He said, well, I want to. What do you really want? And Paul thought and thought, and he said, well, I would really like some crutches. He said, I'm going to buy you the best crutches. He said, because you saved me so much money. I already have a lot of damage, but if everything would have burned down, it would have been very expensive for me. So since you saved me so much money, I want to do something nice for you. And I want to do something nice for your canary. I wonder what I could do. And he thought and thought. He said, does your canary have a cage? And Paul said, no, because he couldn't afford a cage. A cage was too expensive. He said, I'm going to buy the nicest cage. And he did. Beautiful cage for Pet, the canary. So he could sleep in there. Pet can still fly around and ride on Paul's shoulders. But when he goes to sleep, he has his own house. And then he thought and thought. He said, what can I buy your mother? And he thought, and he said, how about a sewing machine? And mother smiled. She thought, oh, a sewing machine. I never thought I'd own a sewing machine. He bought the nicest sewing machine for mother. And so you know what? Then mother could stay home and sew for a living and make money, and she didn't have to go to the factory to work. And so mother got a sewing machine. Now, I think that's very interesting because Paul saved the little canary's life because the canary with a broken wing couldn't fly and couldn't get any food. Paul saved the canary's life, and then the canary saved Paul's life. Isn't that nice? That's how it works. We're nice to people, and you know what? It comes back to us, doesn't it? Yes, now I would like Charlize to have prayer for us.
Hi, I'm Charlize, and I'm going to have closing prayer. Dear Jesus, thank you for this wonderful video that we get to share, and please keep us safe through the day. Amen.